Hello everybody, in today's video we will be transforming this super popular IKEA Kallax unit into a beautiful entryway table that is luxurious and full of style. As I was looking for inspirations on Pinterest and online, these cabinets here really stood out to me. I really love the color, the texture, the storage space that these cabinets provide. I think it will make a great entryway table if we can transform the Kallax unit into something similar. And to be honest, I was really shocked at seeing how much furniture now goes for these days, especially with cabinets like these that look so stylish. They are easily in the thousands. Even when they're on sale, they're no less than $1,500. So I think if we can do this DIY Kallax hack, that will be so much more affordable than the online options that we see. As you can see, this is where I want to put the Kallax unit. It's a mess right now because we have 2 kids, 2 dogs running around constantly. So definitely looking for something with tons of storage space that can help us organize everything. The reason why the Kallax unit came to mind is because when I measure this area, it actually is perfect for the exact size of the Kallax horizontally. And I also want to put a mirror here on top to replace this long, awkward mirror right here. And then we can also add some cute decor. If you want to check out the size of the Kallax unit before you buy, you can easily find this online. It will tell you all the different color options as well, and the size and price. We just got to IKEA and we're headed upstairs because that is where the showrooms are located. The showrooms comprise of many spaces like this one here. I spotted this gorgeous mirror that I think I'll pick up for above the entryway table. And in this other model space, I found the Kallax unit upright and I think it's going to work great for this project. In the middle of the showroom, they have all the various Kallax configurations and colors. IKEA has introduced a variety of inserts that fit perfectly within the Kallax units. These inserts include shelves, drawers, boxes, and even bottles. While this insert with 2 drawers is super cute, I think the insert with the simple door will work best for our project. To pick up the Kallax, we need to head downstairs to the warehouse, which is after the marketplace. We can also pick up our 8 insert with doors and the base with legs that is specifically made for the Kallax. Here's the breakdown of cost for the Kallax unit, the base on legs, and the 8 inserts with doors. So far, we're now at $260 for the core base components. So this is what the IKEA Kallax unit looks like once you fully assemble it when you take it home. It's very spacious, so I really like that. Make sure you also get the matte version. I will paint over this, so I think the matte will turn out to be better. I'm also going to be adding the inserts later, so that way everything is covered once you have all your things stored inside. So here are the remaining items that you would need for our project. It includes the fluted trim, which I will explain later, a sealant, a caulk gun, and Gorilla Glue. One of the main elements that we saw from our inspo are these fluted texture trim. Once we've added that to the doors themselves, it will instantly elevate any kind of projects that you have. We also saw a ton of gold hardware accents across all of our inspirations. So here are my fluted trims that have just arrived from Home Depot. These are pretty long, so we would need to cut this down. I have 6 of these to cover the 8 insert doors, and we really have to measure this so that way we know exactly how much to cut. So here I am marking 13 inches alongside the fluted trim, so that way we know exactly where to cut. The panels are about 13 inches. But I just want to make sure that I also leave some extra room in case we need to sand the edges down. Instead of cutting the 13-inch trim lengths myself, I brought them to Home Depot where they were kind enough to help me cut using my existing markings. I prefer having them make the cuts as their powerful saws make quick and clean cuts versus my hand saw. Now back home, you can see the clean cut trim pieces from Home Depot. Lining them up against the Kallax insert doors, you can see that 4 trim pieces don't cover the whole width of the 13-inch square door. To solve this, I'm going to need to cut an extra width of 2 flutes from an additional trim piece. Given each trim is made up of 5 joint flutes, I can use 1 extra one to provide the extra width for 2 doors. Unfortunately, Home Depot wasn't able to help me cut the extra width as these were very narrow cuts for their tools. However, they did advise me to first score the edge that needs to be cut a few times using a X-Acto knife and then just snap to break it off. As you can see, this worked pretty well, but I then have to sand the edges of the brick to make it smooth. So for each of the insert doors, you can see I have 4 original fluted trim pieces and then an extra narrow piece, which is just 2 flutes in width. Before we glue the fluted trims to the insert doors, make sure to wipe down and clean all the doors so that the glue can adhere well. I also decided to put the narrow piece down in the middle and have the 2 full-size width on either side. This would remove the possibility that the narrow piece come out at the end. To glue all the fluted trims, I'm using this trusty Gorilla Glue and putting down a good amount. Here I drill holes in the fluted trim through the original door holes so I could use the provided IKEA hardware painted gold. Later I switched to a different hardware and had to fill these holes back, so skip this step. The next day after gluing the trims, I sanded down the edges so that they were smooth and of the same exact length. Using the caulk gun and sealant, the final step for the insert doors was to caulk the gaps in between the fluted trim pieces. This was actually much easier than I thought it was going to be. With a fast and smooth motion, squeeze the trigger and fill a line of sealant between each of the gaps and between the trims. Then use a wet towel to smooth down and fill the sealant evenly across the gap. If you need to, you can squeeze more sealant in the areas where you need and redo the whole entire line. It's pretty easy to smooth it down with a towel while the sealant is still wet. And there we have the finished door, which can be painted later once attached. Next step is to insert the 8 inserts into the Kallax units. To do this, I'm first measuring and marking a line on all 4 sides that is 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. This is a shorter distance than the IKEA instructions, but I found it to be better for our modified doors, which have the trims already glued on. We're then going to screw in all 8 inserts in line with our 4 lines and ensure the inserts are oriented so that the 2 small screws are at the top and the door hinges are at the bottom. Lastly, we can install the doors with the glued trims using the 2 final screws. Make sure you install them with the door hinge fully open so you can ensure that the doors will open the whole way. If necessary, you can adjust the position of the screw if you need to bring the door out or in a little. Next, we need to put together the Kallax base frame with the legs, which will lift up and elevate the unit. I'm so glad they now have this base, which is really easy to put together and raise the entire unit. With the Kallax unit placed onto the base, you can see it's really starting to come together. I'm then using a roller and paint tray to paint the entire unit evenly. The paint we're using is the Rust-Oleum matte paint in linen white. I also had to reseal the holes I drilled before changing my mind on the hardware, and then paint the door as well using a foam brush so I can get inside the trim evenly. And there, I think it's looking pretty good already with just 1 coat of paint applied to the unit and all insert doors. Moving on to the hardware, these were the original IKEA knobs that I was going to use and paint gold, but instead I'm going to use these gorgeous brass handles that I found from prettypegs.com. I think that these hardware would look more like the inspo that we are originally going for. They are a little bit shinier than I had hoped, but ultimately I think it would look really good. You can also find other hardware from Home Depot or any hardware store near you. To install the new hardware, I simply found and marked the center position for the holes and drilled them in. I then screw in the new hardware on each of the 8 doors. It's so good to see everything coming together. Look how good the entire unit looks with all brass handles installed. Wow. So here is what the new IKEA unit looks like once it has been transformed and we brought it in. I really do love how it fits perfectly in this nook area here in my entryway. The way that this turned out is even better than I had expected. The gold hardware handles really add that finishing touch and make it more modern and stylish. I love how the accent is very subtle and the fluted trims really make this basic Kallax shelf more high-end. Now we just need to add some finishing touches. Remember the mirror that I had saw at IKEA earlier? Well, I'm planning on putting this above the cabinet space here. So I'm going to be hanging the mirror in the middle of the wall. I'm also going to be centering the new cabinet so that everything looks symmetrical and even. Now let's decorate our console table. When I was finding inspos online, I noticed that there are some common rules to follow when decorating it. Here I want to list out a few things to consider for you guys. First, set the scene with mirrors, gallery walls, or a large piece of artwork. This creates a focal point and draws the eye immediately when you're looking at it. I personally love the mirror so that you can use it to do any final checks before heading out the door. Then consider adding flowers and vases to breathe life and freshness for the space. Next to it, you can also add some coffee table books. On the other side, consider adding decorative objects like jewelry boxes and trays. You can also use them to store keys, hair ties, or jewelry. And last thing to consider is to add a lamp to light up the entryway. And here is the final reveal. I seriously love how everything turned out. The entryway was just not working before, if you guys remember, but now the cabinet really elevates the space and adds tons of storage that we need. This Kallax unit hack really allows us tons of storage solutions. I also highly recommend you guys to install your insert doors so that they open from top down rather than opening from the side. This is because it's so much easier to open them from top to bottom than to bend down and open from the side. I now have one cubby to store leashes for the dog, one for everyone's hats, one for tote bags, one for sunnies and keys. I also really love how I can have a few shoes underneath without really showing them. I hope you guys enjoyed this Kallax hack. I had a lot of fun transforming it. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions on any of the steps. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel so we can make more videos like this.